had that today.
So I just wanted to let you know that just in case.
Well, we'll get started.
Yep, ready.
See how things go.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Before you, you have the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, you two. Did you get those, Twyla? All right, and I'll slow down a little bit too, make sure our recorder's working and our typer's working. All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. The agenda has been passed. The next item is introduction of new topics for discussion. This is just kind of a reminder, I guess, that this is the last meeting to do that, unless there's a mutually agreed upon reason to add another topic. So are there any topics that anybody would like to add for further discussion other than what we already have? I think I see heads shaking no, so, okay, thank you. So it sounds like we don't have any additional topics, so that keeps the list the same then. That's great. Okay, so tonight's meeting. We know we're kind of on the clock to wrap up within 45 minutes to an hour or so. So we thought we would just start with some of those specific topics that we've kind of already even talked about a little bit. And then also the safe workplace, the dental vision, all of those good things. So let's kind of start there. We can talk about, I think, any of those avenues. Yes.
I would propose that we start with the horizontal movement lane change. Did you get that sent out and approved?
Yes, we're good. Yep, we can.
So that we can take that off the,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh, okay.
And also maintenance of standards we can sign.
Well, we gotta,
And
we're
We need a
gonna come
little
back to that one.
clarification on that
We
one.
gotta clarify that one.
Okay.
So how
But
about
that
the
sounds
national
great.
board certification?
yeah, that's. I know that the horizontal movement, there was some concerns because we just got, just 2 days ago, something from RESP with more classes. So the only thing that potentially we'd like to discuss is could we move that back 15 days? Because like I said, that was April 30th that came out. And that would be the day that everything would have to be in, because all the RESP stuff just came out again yesterday. So I'm not sure
I
what.
don't
how
know why
wanna
we
do that.
couldn't make there couldn't be an accommodation made.
I would, from a budget perspective, if we pushed all those recommendations back, I think we ultimately ended up with a April 30th date to start. That was when the final date was, so we would be moving that to middle of May.
Like May 15. I'm not sure when you start budget or. Obviously,
Kind of now,
that's
but
The contracts was a big part too, the reprinting, we issue contracts and then with that late August, we need to reprint them when they change. So that was also a consideration. I mean, the budget was part of it, but it was also the issuance of contracts.
Is this just for this year or in perpetuity?
probably in perpetuity because
Okay.
I guess they'll really, we don't have control of when
Right.
West River or RESP or any of those other places, send them out, and we don't want to hinder our staff from being able to partake in those classes and actually get credit.
I have an RESP meeting tomorrow. Should I ask them about getting information out earlier?
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
It would be very nice.
Okay.
Because I know that Mr. Harris was going to check and see how many contracts had to be reprinted this year, and I don't know whether he did or not.
And I'll take the proposed language and show it to them and
Okay.
see.
let's hold off on that then and
Okay.
see if we could get them. The challenge is they may not be the only group that
I know.
communicates late in the year about something.
Right.
So, but I think we also had conversation as well. as long as the employee's planning to want to make a move, I think the exactness of what it is that class is and stuff, that flexibility is already there. That's not an issue. It is going to be the fact that probably May 15th, people are going to be notified of something that happens over the summer, and that could maybe make a change or not. But I guess I agree that the intent of anything of this change was to kind of just streamline everything so that we could have contracts issued that would,
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible, knowing that, assuming you're going to take these classes, this is your salary, and only then have to reissue it if you end up not doing that.
Could there be
And I'm okay with, we're okay with
Yeah,
that.
sounds
We're just
good, so let's-
concerned about, especially with RESP just sending it 2 days ago? Yeah.
So let's talk to RSP, I think, or RESP, I think that's a great starting point, and find out how, is this a reality that it's always gonna happen like this? And if so,
Right.
then we need to address that. And if this is a one-off and that usually they can get us that information out much earlier, we can share that out and see if we could still stick to the original dates.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the national board certification date is okay with us because that's never gonna be a surprise to the people who are doing
Right.
that.
Okay. Okay, then we will make a note then on the horizontal movement that we'll bring that back again, just one more time, and make sure we're okay on those dates. Maybe add 15 or add some days as we discuss, or maybe not. We'll see
Or a
what
clause for
RSP.
good cause shown?
What's that?
I
Or
said-
or a clause?
Or a clause saying for good cause shown, this came up such and such a date, and, for the most part, probably the teachers would have all of what
Most
they,
would have their
most
ducks in
would
a
have
row in
it, but
advance.
like you said, for good cause shown, it
Right.
would, you
Okay.
could look at something like that. And then item D, dental and vision, we're gonna take that off the table,
Entirely?
yes.
Well, that makes quick work of most all those items up there then. The maintenance and standards clause, and I'm trying to flip through my papers here to find the vernacular on that. I had a couple of questions. To make sure I'm understanding it correctly. And Twyla, you might have to help me out here.
You might have to help me out.
I think we had, yeah, all of us maybe, huh?
I don't have one in here though.
Oh, that was on the 24th.
Is it in that, in that packet? Thank you, good. Quit going through my own stuff. Okay, thank you.
You have one?
Okay,
I have a couple.
you have it.
I have a couple.
I don't know if everybody. All right, well, let me read it, I guess, so everybody can make sure. And then I can ask my specific questions and see if we need to do something to make sure I have my answers. So, all conditions of employment shall be maintained at not less than the highest minimum standards in effect in the district at the time this agreement is signed, provided that such agreement shall be improved upon for the benefit of teachers as required by the express provision of this agreement. The agreement shall not be interpreted or applied to provide or deprive teachers or professional and/or employment advantages theretofore unless expressly stated herein. So during this discussion, we talked about kind of the overall contract itself. I learned that there was a time in history where possibly legislators here changed something middle biennium or something, and it kind of regressed and went backwards. And my understanding would be that this would kind of protect that from happening. And that makes sense to me. The next questions that I need help with is that as we had a conversation at our last meeting a couple days ago, for instance, talking about the career increments and the salary schedule piece and all of that, help me understand if this were already in place a year ago, this specific clause, could we then even be having this conversation that we're having at this meeting today about possibly, restructuring the salary schedule and those career increments and adding them to a real 40-year schedule or whatever like we were just having? Or
Yes.
would that bind us
No.
to not do that?
Because this agreement has, if you take a look at the negotiated agreement, it has an end date, basically. You know, because it talks about this agreement will be in effect from July 1st, 2017 until June 30th, 2019. So what the standards of maintenance standards contract clause says basically is that during the time period of this contract,
Okay.
those are
So that makes
protected.
sense to me, except for this one. This says that that employment shall be maintained at not less than the highest minimum standards in effect, which would be last contract, at the time of this signing, which would be the new contract. So essentially,
It would be for the lifetime of the contract that we are signing for the next time period, because whatever is in there from, July 1st to June 30th is what,
okay.
Is would
But
be
it
the-
sounds
so-
like the intent is what I'm thinking it's supposed to be.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
I just need to
And-
figure
and-
out the verbiage then, because the way.
if that were the case, we wouldn't be able to have negotiations on anything in the agreement.
Yeah, that's exactly
And-
what was worrying me here. Is
And
that,
that's
well, wait a
not-
minute, if it can't be any higher than what's in effect at the time you're signing this, really,
Well, which would
what's in
be,
effect,
the 5/25/17 for this one.
correct.
So it would be, and then that was saying, that it's.
Which
gonna
would
be
mean I
July.
could never change anything moving forward. Like, let's say this was already in effect and we were getting ready to talk about negotiations for this year, like we are. Okay, let's pretend this was in effect
Okay.
last year. So
Yep, perfectly fine.
what that means is gosh, I'm not doing a good job of explaining my dilemma. I just want to make sure that would allow us to have all these conversations that we possibly are having, and doesn't. The way that this could be interpreted is that the highest minimum standards in effect at the time we sign this, which are those standards
No,
would
because
maybe have the.
we would not be signing, at that, because this is signing the new contract into place. So we're negotiating a new master
Right,
contract.
Okay.
And the new master contract, at the time signing of that contract that it would be in, would be the standard that for the next 2 years that we would hold.
Well, and I haven't had time to talk with my group.
That's fine.
So here for just a minute, since we do have some time, anybody else have any concerns, or is
I have
it just?
concerns. I'd feel
it
much
just
more
me?
comfortable if we had an attorney look at it.
Well, it sounds to me like, okay, and we could do that then. It sounds to me we're in agreement, as long as
Right.
what you're saying is the real interpretation of this. I think that's
That is our
fine too.
intent.
Okay,
That is the intent. It is not.
And as I
no
said in the
intent.
last meeting, I think I would support that. I've always felt a contract's a contract anyway, and we wouldn't change it.
Right.
This just kind of adds, I guess, a second layer of protection to make sure we wouldn't change it. I'm fine with that, as long as it doesn't limit us in ever, talking like we were just talking,
Right.
where in order to make a change to
That is certainly not the
TFFR
intent.
or anything,
Intent
it
of
could
this
No,
at
be.
all.
we never took
Okay,
it, I mean,
good.
I never took it that way. All I'm saying is, I know what happens when it might be somebody's intent and something else down the road, and so,
When new negotiators come into play and there's new players at the table and
Yeah.
they're not. And
Newbie right here. That's so that's perfect. Let me, our intent is then, it's
That's
all
fine.
good. Let me just
confirm it.
That's fine.
confirm. Yep,
Absolutely.
I'll confirm and we'll bring it back, and we will do that. So thank you. All right, perfect, thank you. Okay, then, safe workplace language. Let's have that conversation.
I did send out all of the wording to everybody this morning. I hope you all received it. If not, I do have more copies of it here.
No, I have it.
Does anybody else need it?
Twyla, do you need one to maybe help?
Because I have plenty.
Let
You
me
need
hand one to
that?
Twyla,
Okay.
just to,
You guys
I
need
learned that as she's
Nope,
doing
I'm good,
minutes,
thank
it
you.
helps her to have
you
the
one
actual
or-
papers that we've not been given her. So we'll make sure we do that. Okay, everybody has a copy, I believe, now. And I appreciate you sending that out even earlier as well. I've had a chance to look it over as well. So share with us I guess, kind of the origins of this, where,
Well, DEA has monthly meetings, and oftentimes, during those monthly meetings, they will bring up topics of concern in the classroom that comes out. And one of the things that has been a common theme over this past year or so has been students who have had, for lack of a better word, tantrums, throwing things, hitting, biting, kicking, stabbing, teachers, and having 24, 26 other students in the proximity of that student as well. And what is possible for our we want to make sure our staff are not intimidated, are not fearful, and are given the tools to take care of those things to the best of their ability without getting hurt themselves. And I guess, as a high school teacher, it's really tough for me to talk about this because I've never had that in my class. And being a male, I guess I'll put it from that aspect too. I've never had that in class. So it's really hard for me to doc that, but I can guarantee that if we look out in the audience, there'll be a lot of head shaking with what happens in the class. And I know that we do have two that are right here. So I would love to
Thank you.
turn it over to them and have them kind of help us move this along.
It's a daily occurrence in buildings. In our building alone, there is children that will have a tantrum in any grade, K through 5. Some of those students will be students that are on IEPs, but there are many students that are not. They are just in the general ed classroom, and they have those behavioral needs that are not being taken care of. It's left to the teacher to deal with. I know for a fact we have kids in the kindergarten room that have had these tantrums where they have stabbed their teacher with the pencil or with a pair of scissors. They've gotten angry and have destroyed multiple things in the classroom. They flip desks over. They will take and destroy pencil caddies. First grade classrooms, they've had same kind of issues. On up, as they get older, it then turns into more verbal attacks and things like that on teachers. There's other buildings that Berg has had issues with. We've heard stories come from teachers where they've had students where they will run away from the teachers, and then you are literally chasing down students trying to get them from, they're literally running away from their teachers and they're having to chase them down. In the classroom, there's a teacher that said she has a student that will hop desks, and they've been told there's a no hands policy, so they can't do anything about it. You're not allowed to touch the child unless there is imminent danger to themselves or to other students. So, hands off. There's teachers that have been bit, scratched. Definite claw marks, things like that.
And, it's, just to clarify, it's not a Dickinson Public School problem. It's not a state problem. It's a nationwide problem, and it's growing. And I do think it's something that definitely needs to be looked at and evaluated. And I'm glad our district, we have the Tier 1 and Tier 2 mental health task force
And
teams.
3.
And Tier 3, yep. And now, so that's, definitely moving in the right direction. But, we talk about working as a unit and as a whole. And I know in our building, we don't look at it as your student, it's our student. And we have come together and we have tried to figure out everything we can, and we're working with students that aren't even ours to try to help out. And I mean, a good analogy would be like, there's just so many, and you're almost outnumbered, and your administrator's working as hard as he can, but there's only one of him too. And then the problem is too, what happens with that child? Because you feel like you're not helping that child reach their needs, but then the 25 others you're not helping either, so you're like, you're kind of caught between the rock and a hard place, you know. And then what do? You don't want to, okay, let's take him over to the special ed room, well, or her, and you don't want to do that because now you're interrupting the learning in that room as well. And so where do they go? Who takes them, you know? And so it's hard for the classroom teacher too, because they have 25 others in their room, and then the principal, he's outnumbered, or she, you know, because there's so many of them. So we find other alternatives, but one way to look at it is like, you're in survival mode. Your building ends up being in survival mode. You're like in this life raft, and now you got holes in it, and everyone's just swimming, you know? And so it's just trying to find the right solution. Where do they go? And feeling safe. And then looking at it too, what happens with the other students in the room that have anxiety? And now they feel unsafe. And that's like number one, to have a safe environment for learning. We want everyone to have high levels of learning. That's number one. And so and when you truly are working as a unit in your building and you're trying everything, you're still feeling like you're drowning, you know what I mean? And so it's like, what can we do, you know? And so we were thinking putting this language in will help protect, you know, teachers, students, all of the above.
So
And-
let me ask,
Yeah,
how does it help? What changes with this?
well, if we